What are 3 ways a simple land subdivision can go sideways in California? I've got a story I want to tell you about a project that we looked at in Vallejo. It's a very simple subdivision. It was just taking one residential parcel and turning it into 2 residential parcels. And I wanted to tell you this story because it's a really great illustration of how things can go sideways with a land subdivision. It's why you want to be very careful before you start down that land development path. You may want to get a feasibility study. You want to work with a good consultant team. Make sure you have a good surveyor, good private land planner helping you out. And in this particular story that we're going to look at, we're going to look at 3 potential problems with this subdivision. They all were boundary and land title problems. And there's all kinds of other problems that can happen on a potential subdivision, right? We're just going to talk about the boundary and land title things that could go wrong. We're just going to look at 3 examples of that. So land development is not for sissies, especially in California, right? And you need to understand the risk and the things that could go sideways. So I drew a little sketch. Hopefully you guys will be able to see it. This is a property in Vallejo. And so the subject parcel was highlighted. I've highlighted here in pink. And it's one parcel, but there were 2 houses on it, right? And I was looking at working with a gentleman he was referred to me by one of our land attorneys that we work with. And he was wanting to split this parcel into 2 so that he could sell one or both of these, right? And so in California, this would be what we could do this with what's called a parcel map. It's a fairly simple subdivision, 4 lots or fewer. So at no charge, we took a look at this. The land attorney asked me if I would do that, and I told him yes. He was an existing client. So we immediately identified 3 potential problems that could derail the subdivision and explain this to the potential buyer. So I want to walk you guys through what those things are. So here was the first problem. The first problem was this house to the south here on lot 1 was really close to the property line, and it may have encroached. We weren't sure. And part of the problem was this parcel had never been surveyed, so there was some uncertainty as to where the boundary lines were, parcel boundaries, property lines. And this house was really close. So I told the buyer, potential buyer, I said, hey, you could have an encroachment here. If not over the property line, it could at least violate setback. Now, how could that cause problems? Well, that might mean at some point you have to keep this lot line, move this lot line up, right? And this guy was already very close to the minimum acreage, right? So if he lost too much area, he wasn't going to be able to do the subdivision. He was going to be under the minimum area requirement. Okay, so depending on what you had to do with this lot line here to resolve this encroachment, that could be an issue. Okay, the second issue was also related to minimum area, and that was this. So North Star Road down here was public, but these 2 roads on each side, this is Plum Bob Way and Long Chain Way, these were both private roads, okay? And in fact, this portion of this road was contained in the subject parcel deed. So it's possible, I don't know for sure, but a strong possibility that this parcel owned this land here in fee, even though the neighbors had rights to drive over it. So here's what I told the buyer, potential buyer. I said, hey, look, if we count this area here, you meet the minimum area requirement to subdivide. If we don't count it, there's a good chance you're not going to meet the minimum. That's how close he was to the line, right? And I didn't know for sure if he owned this or not, right? It wasn't clear. It was in his deed, but it could have been in some other people's deeds. We didn't have a title report. I said, hey, that's a potential risk there. We got to figure out what's going on with this road. Okay, so that was the second problem. Okay, there was another problem, a third problem. This house over here on his parcel didn't have a driveway to Long Chain Way, and it couldn't get to North Star Road, the public road. The only way it had to get to the public road, let me clarify that. The only way it could get to North Star Road was over Plum Bob Way. Okay, and Plum Bob Way was also private. Okay, and I wasn't certain that this parcel had a right to travel over Plum Bob Way to get to North Star. So it's possible that this part of his parcel was basically landlocked unless he could get a driveway over to Long Chain Way, right? And the issue with that is the driveway wasn't going to fit around this existing home. That could be a big deal, right? Like something like that could kill a project potentially. So I told him, I said, hey, we got to find out if you got access rights over Plum Bob Way. Because if you don't, you got a problem there, right? Now you may be thinking, well, how is it even possible somebody would put in a driveway and they've been driving in and out of here? How could they not have access rights? It happens all the time. People just aren't paying attention, right? And there may be access rights there, but I didn't know. I told him that's something that you need to get checked out. Okay, so just let's review real quick. What were the 3 issues? Number 1, potential encroachment here, right? That could affect his ability to meet the minimum area requirement for a subdivision. Right? We weren't sure how the local agency, the local planning department, was going to treat this road if he owned it. We didn't know. We weren't sure he owned it. It looked like he did, but we weren't sure. And even if he did own it, we weren't sure that the planning department was going to allow him to count it towards his square footage. Okay, so again, potentially could miss the minimum area requirement there. And then finally, he had to figure out if he had legal rights if he did the subdivision with this new liner here. If his lot 3A here, if they were going to have legal rights to get to North Star Road over Plum Bob Way, because that wasn't clear either. So again, subdivisions don't get any simpler than this, right? Everything's built, we're taking one parcel, we're making two parcels out of it, we're doing a parcel map, and yet, when you take a close look here, and this was just review of the land records, right? I found 3 potential things that could potentially make this project go sideways. Right now, I'm not telling you don't subdivide or don't do the project. And I didn't tell the buyer that. What I told him is these are things you need to think about and you need to investigate because you may or may not have a profitable subdivision here. So we've got another video where I talk about feasibility studies. I'll try and link to that in the comments so you guys can check that out if you want. So there you go. Don't subdivide in California if you don't have professional help because there's lots of things that could make a project go sideways.